Hello friends, my name is Akwi Nji. Thank you so much for joining me for the Kaleidoscope Storytime series. Today, I will be reading Ada Twist, Scientist, written by Andrea Beaty and illustrated by David Roberts. Now, Ada is incredibly curious, just like her classmates. But when her curiosity gets the best of her and she starts taking it a little too far with her scientific experiments, her parents have enough, and they send her to the thinking chair. But will all that thinking change Ada's mind? We'll have to find out together. Before we get started with Ada Twist Scientist, we're going to go ahead and remind ourselves that today we are actors. And we know that all actors have 3 tools in their actor's toolkit. So that first tool is the body. All actors use their body. To remind us to use our bodies today, we'll place our hands on our thighs and then on our shoulders and make a circle around our face. And we'll do it together and say body. Ready? Body. Fantastic job. The second tool that all actors have in their toolkit is voice. Voice. So make a V with 2 fingers, place that V at your throat and say it with me. Voice. Fantastic job. The third tool that all actors have in their toolkit is their imagination. That's right. So to remind us to use our imagination, place your fingers at your head and tap your head 5 times as you say imagination. Ready? Imagination. Fantastic. Do it with me one more time. Imagination. Wonderful job. Now let's put all 3 together. The first one, body. Ready? Do it with me. Body. Fantastic. Second tool, voice. And imagination. Wonderful job. Our book today gives us so many opportunities to use our body, our voice, and our imagination. And the things that we'll be paying attention to are, when Ada's parents get really frustrated with her, they use their voice and their body, and we will too when they say, stop! So be listening as we read the story. When Ada's parents say stop, we'll use our body and our voice, just like that. Stop! Fantastic job. Now, Ada often asks the question, why? So we're going to use our bodies when we get to that point when Ada asks that question, and it'll look like this. Do it with me. Why? Again, why? Wonderful job. The next thing that we're going to be using is our imagination. Remember, imagination. And we'll imagine ourselves putting on a science coat at a certain part in the book too. That'll be fun. The last thing that we'll talk about is the very encouraging words that come from Ada's parents when she's not quite sure what to do. They say, you'll figure it out. So when we get to that, we're going to use our voice and whisper. You'll figure it out. Do it with me one time. You'll figure it out. Wonderful job. We're ready to get started. Ada Marie, said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day chasing each sound and sight and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak as Ada grew bigger and still did not speak. Clearly, young Ada with lots in her head would have something to say when it ought to be said. And that's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" Good job, as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply asked, "Why?" Fantastic job. Why does it tick? And why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to her rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? She started with, why? And then, what? How and when? By bedtime, she came back to, why? Again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child who wanted to know what the world was all about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Do that one with me again. "You'll figure it out." Wonderful job using your voice. Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Now, even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. Do you sort of wonder what kind of havoc she created at school? I do too. I bet she made lots of messes. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. What do you think makes a great scientist? Yeah, that's a good one. Maybe curiosity? And based on Ada, probably being able to clean up messes, don't you think? Yeah. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie!" said Ada, which got her to thinking. What is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell, and does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start, where she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. Then zowie! The stink struck again, just like that. Hypothesis 2, it's caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. She started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" Good job. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now. By the time we count 3, enough, said her mother. That's it, said her father. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said, "No." What? Ada queried. Her father said, "Go. You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think." She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall. And Ada, once more, could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat. And she sat. And she sat. And she thought about science and stew and the cat and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked two. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why? And then what? And how? And when? At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Her parents calmed down and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair now was the great thinking hall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, "We'll figure it out." And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and heart that is true. They remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asks lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. And as for that smell, what can Ada Twist do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question. And someday, who knows? The end. Oh, Ada Twist, scientist. My goodness gracious, what a wonderful joy to read that book with you today. Oh, that Ada Twist, my goodness, she's such a curious young person, and I love that about her. Now, her parents were sometimes overwhelmed. There was some vocabulary in that book that I'd like to review with you, and as we do that, let's think about using our body with some of the vocabulary. So the first vocabulary word was frazzled. Remember that Ada's parents were frazzled and they tried not to freak. Well, frazzled means that you're overwhelmed and confused and you're not quite sure what to do and you're concerned. I wonder what Ada's parents looked like as frazzled parents as she was climbing up that clock. Show me with your body what frazzled looks like. That's what I think frazzled looks like in my house. Now, another word that came up in the book was gawk. Ada's parents, when they saw that wall that she'd written all over, they couldn't help but gawk. And gawk means to stare at something in disbelief. You can't believe what you see. So show me with your body what it looks like to gawk. Maybe something like that. Great job. The next vocabulary word is quiver. Now, as Ada climbed up to the top of the clock and her parents were scolding her, her chin started to quiver. And quiver means to tremble or shake just a little bit. So show me with your body what it means to quiver. Maybe if you're really cold, you quiver like this. Great job. That was wonderful. So we had frazzled, gawk, and quiver, and we used our body today to think about those vocabulary words. Thank you so much for joining me for the Kaleidoscope Storytime series today. We'll see you next time.